know, sir, it's a funny thing. All my life, I kept running into smart people. I don't just mean smart like you and the people in this house. You know what I mean. In school, there were lots of smarter kids. And when I first joined the force, sir, they had some very clever people there. And I could tell right away that it wasn't going to be easy making detectives as long as they were around. But I figured if I worked harder than they did, put in more time, read the books, kept my eyes open, maybe I could make it happen. And I did. And I really love my work, sir.
I can tell you do. There's one thing I learned, Lieutenant. It's that we all have a cross to bear, including those of us who seem most fortunate. My problem is just the opposite. Born smart, as they say. A blessing, you'd think. I had no real childhood. I was an imitation adult, because that's what was expected of me. Most people don't like smart people. Most children despise smart children. So, early on, I had to hide my so-called gift, conceal it from my own brothers and sisters, my classmates, in the service. Painful, lonely years.
You know, sir, I'd never thought of that.
I wonder if all those early bitter memories had something to do with my recent discovery that I simply no longer care, even for my fellow intelligentsia in this club. I find them eccentric bores.
Crying for you, and as I sit here and sigh, says I can't believe it's true. Boo-hoo.
Hello, Columbo fans. This is definitely not Steve.
Oh, thank God, because I'm definitely not Sean.
And we are here.
And
we are here to talk about.
Moving along.
To talk about the final episode of. Well, it's not the final episode of Columbo, but for us, it's our final episode. Although it's not going to be our final podcast episode.
No, we got one more Columbo confab after tonight.
Yeah, we have one more. We'll discuss that at the end of the show. We're here to talk about the Bye Bye High Sky IQ murder case.
The craziest name in all of Columbo episodes.
Just undoubtedly.
I don't. I have a hard time remembering this one because I keep wanting to refer to it as the Mile High episode. I'm like, no, that's not right. That doesn't sound. But that's where I don't know.
You're like my grandma, just interchanging words.
Yeah.
Then there's the Catch Me If You Can episode, but it's actually Try and Catch Me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so.
I probably said that.
So, okay, I explained this last time, but the reason we're doing this last is because we did this episode, we reviewed this episode on the TARDIS Tavern when we did a little, I don't know, was it for April Fools or something?
I don't remember.
But, so this,
that time in my life was very hazy of all the booze we had.
Yeah, I was pretty much cooked up for every episode. It was really a great time. You know, we could put those up on YouTube. I bet that would, you know.
You said someone's doing that. I thought, or they're doing it just for this podcast.
They're doing it. Well, no.
Right.
For a while, this podcast was being put on YouTube simultaneously with it being published, but then there was some sort of problem between YouTube and Libsyn, and it's no longer doing it. But you'd have to be if I wanted to be very proactive, I could go and upload those episodes that haven't done it, but I just don't. To quote one of my heroes, ain't nobody got time for that. So,
heroes. Okay.
Yeah. So just, podcasts are free. It's free. Is it free for us? No, it's not free for us. So, yeah.
It's free. It's free to you. Yes.
It's free to our
free entertainment, everyone. Especially.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, during these trying times when you're stuck in a house all day or you're home all day, can't beat free.
Exactly. We are your surrogate friends to guide you through the coronavirus outbreak, which I think officially now we're both working from home. I have to go to work tomorrow, Monday, and then Tuesday starts my self-quarantine.
Yeah, no, I've been in self-quarantine for a week. I started last week working from home. Actually, no, it would have been the Thursday before last week started. And I tell you, it's something weird about sitting in the same house for that many days straight. It really does start to drive you crazy. I started playing video games more frequently, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Have you? Well, no, you haven't started yet, so you're probably going to start watching
yet.
Movies and.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick up work on the 1001 Movies Club, which I've neglected the last few months. Okay,
There you go.
But really, we're not here to talk about that.
No,
We're here to talk
your
about
escape from all that crazy shit, and
Yeah,
we're here to talk about Columbo.
Columbo and Theodore Bikel as Oliver Brandt,
Yes.
a murderous architect.
I was not really familiar with him, but I do recall seeing him in something else previously, and I had to really kind of rack my brain trying to figure out what exactly I remember him from. And I went through his IMDb listing, and a lot of films, a lot of films, did a lot of TV from the 70s and 80s. But the one I remember him from is from, I don't know if you ever watched the show, but it was called Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes, I was going to bring that up. Hooray! He's Worf's dad.
Yes, right. Yes, exactly. That was the funny thing I remember.
I'm going to say there's another Star Trek connection with this one. Samantha Eggar, who plays his beautiful wife, was Picard's sister-in-law. She played his sister-in-law. Okay, all right.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Probably in that
Really?
one episode where he goes back and, the wine. We're not talking about the current
Vine.
series Picard, but... Okay, so there's this house. Okay, these people, the Sigma Society.
Oh, and there's one other person who's guest starring in this episode.
Okay.
Yes. Well, hold on. There's one other guest star in this episode.
Okay.
And I think definitely. So Sorrel Book.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Now, most people would. So most people might remember him as Boss Hogg, or maybe even more fondly from season 3, episode 7's episode of Swan Song as J.J. Stringer, the producer with the crazy ass glasses.
Where he has nothing to do.
Fortunately, he got an expanded upon role.
He had
in this one he actually had lines, and he had actual.
In that, in Swan Song, he just had a very unflattering, sitting in the foreground with his big fat face, and I'm like, oh man, he's not gonna like watching that. Sorrel Book, I kind of made a career on not being a skinny fit guy.
How do you say his first name?
I think it's Sorrel.
Is it Sorrel?
I'm guessing Sorrel.
Sorrel. I bet you are. I bet you're right. Yeah.
There's one other person in there that we see in the opening shot. There's one member of the Sigma Society. Mike Lally is there, and we later see him playing Star Trek chess with another old guy in the bar area.
Chess.
Remember how they'd go to the bar and they'd play?
Yes, I remember. Yes, I don't remember seeing him there, but okay, if you say so.
And oh god, I didn't write his name down, but the guy that was in the producers that played the Nazi screenwriter, who he's in this. I can't remember the actor's name, but he plays the welder who's giving the speech at the beginning.
Yeah, you sang that so perfectly too.
Do you remember that scene from the producers when they all get drunk and then
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
It's okay,
but yeah, he's Mike the welder, right? So
yeah,
so the story opens up at the clubhouse, I guess, the fraternity. I'm not really sure what you call that kind of house.
Yeah, can I ask a question though? Where the fuck did they get the money to buy that house? I mean, we find out he donated.
Well, it was embezzled. It was embezzled, of course.
Okay, right. It's huge. It's not let's meet in a church basement. I mean, there's all kinds of expensive looking shit in there.
Well, and they're a branch of the Sigma Society. So who knows? Maybe there's money that's I don't know. Hell, Sean.
Just saying.
It's TV.
Yeah.
Come on.
And by the way, the Sigma Society is basically Mensa.
Yeah. Yeah, the top 2% of the I guess the smartest people in the world, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Columbo's up for a challenge. He's got to outwit one of the most intelligent people on the planet.
Yes. So this is what we see Oliver Brandt do in the beginning.
Right. So
he sneaks up the back stairs. How much of this do we see? I don't recall, even though I literally just watched it before.
Well, yeah. So, Mike the welder is basically bragging about himself about how, how smart he is, and no one can do what he does, but yeah. So he's giving his little presentation about himself. That's such bullshit. Anyways, so we see Oliver sneak in through the front, go upstairs, and he starts. I don't want to say booby trap, but he's setting up the room so he can perform the murder. Mm-hmm. And it's in a study upstairs. Mm-hmm. Right. So we see him. What does he do? He has in his umbrella. He's got squibs that will make a popping sound.
Fishing wire.
What else? He sets a record player that can auto select tracks, I guess.
Yeah. I didn't know that you could you learn a lot about record players in this episode.
Yes.
And I remember my mom had a fancy record player like that when I was a kid, and I love how Columbo calls it a Victrola later on. But
I didn't catch that. A what?
Yeah,
what did you call it?
A Victrola.
What's that?
Like those. That's what you would call the old timey. Like you wind it up, and it's got that big huge horn.
Of course he did. Yes. Okay.
But this
because that is like new technology to Columbo. To us, it's ancient. But
yeah. And there's a devious red marker involved, as well as a big, huge Random House dictionary. And
that's a huge dictionary. Yes.
We had one of those. Oh, except it was
it
was a Random House encyclopedia. It was about that size. And I used to read it for fun, like a fucking nerd. And one time I had to go to bed. This is a true story. I had to go to bed, and I turned on my bed light, and I was reading that encyclopedia, and it fell off the bed, and my mom came upstairs and yelled at me to go to bed.
Stop being so smart. Go to bed.
Anyway.
So, so all while this is going on, the president, I can't think of his name, president of the Sigma Society, is talking about purchasing a burglar alarm because crime has increased in the neighborhood. So he's really paranoid. Mm-hmm. So that kind of plays into what happens next. So Oliver, he re-enters through the front door, and they have a maid. How does she get through?
Does she live there? Is it her house? And she's like, hey, y'all come over every Tuesday night.
Maybe?
Well, she needs to clean up that upstairs study, because that place is a pit. The art direction team did a good job of making that look pretty weird.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But anyways,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's when Oliver walks into the meeting, and they're talking about buying a burglar alarm. And I forgot what Oliver says something to Bertie. Bertie's the guy who
played by Sorrell.
Yeah, okay. Sorrell. But he says something like, "There's nothing in here worth stealing except for Bertie's mind power," or something. I don't know. But he's always teasing poor Bertie.
Yeah, he's actually pretty mean
from the very beginning. Yeah. And he loves to tickle him, too.
It's such a bizarre relationship, and I know you're going to say that it's gay, but it's not gay.
Well, we're getting there. And I got to apologize, first of all, anybody who listened to our TARDIS Tavern version of this is probably going to be a retread for me. Because I remember talking about some of these things previously. When was it? 3 years ago? Did that episode. So I apologize.
Did you?
I'd be curious. I didn't listen to that podcast to see what my thoughts were, because I didn't want it to sway my opinion on tonight. Mm-hmm. But I'd be curious if I've changed my opinion at all.
Did you notice the lady with the Fifth Doctor cosplay from Doctor Who?
Of course, that was the. Yeah, so Mrs. Eisenbach. So she's kind of a klutzy. I don't know. I'm surprised she's in this group in the first place. She's got a very interesting jacket. I think it would have looked better if she garnished it with some kind of, I don't know, celery stalk or something like that. That would have been very nice. Yeah. But she's a bit of a ditz and a klutz. There's a scene where she's drinking a glass of wine, and then she's looking into her glass like she's upset about something, and she goes, "Oh no, I think I dropped my contact lens and swallowed it." That's the kind of person she is.
Yeah. But she didn't. Oh man, contact lenses back then were probably horrible for your eyes.
Oh, can you actual glass? Oh my! Could you imagine?
When I started wearing contact lenses, they were called gas permeables, and they weren't glass, but they were just hard plastic, and you wore the same ones every day and cleaned them with a solution. And I don't know how many times I got eye infections, but I did not want to wear my glasses. I'm sorry, this is all about me. It's not all about me.
So anyway, Bertie and Oliver decide to carry on a conversation upstairs. Mm-hmm. Now, at this point, we see more tickling and more teasing. They play this game where they have to pick a number, which will reference the dictionary or encyclopedia, whatever the hell that book was.
Biggest dictionary.
Yeah, so it's like, what was it, page 237. Then the other one will pick the number of the word, or how many words on that page that they need to go down, and then whatever word. I guess how many? Is that how many?
If it's odd,
letters?
One guy wins. If it's even, the other guy wins.
Right, and
the word was Karina, which is one letter away from Corona, as in the coronavirus.
Nice. But it does not mean what you think it means. It means what?
The breastbone of a bird.
Yes. What was the name of the girl, the 14-year-old in this?
I should have written that down because I...
Oh, it was Caroline. Caroline. Trainer. Or Trainer, something like that. Yeah. But yeah. Was she annoying?
Yes.
Very.
Yeah. Most girls in Columbo are annoying.
Yes. But anyways, so... Apparently, Bertie has discovered behind Oliver's back that at their firm, they have an accounting firm together, that Oliver has been embezzling money from all these lonely widowers. And I guess Bertie has had enough. And it's funny because Oliver says, you're my old friend, I would never hurt you. And you can kind of see Bertie like, oh, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you either. And then Oliver goes in for another tickle, and that pisses Bertie off, and then he finally says, I'm going to report you. He just loses his temper completely, and that's when Oliver pulls the gun on him. Mm-hmm. That he had placed in there, moments before.
And he shoots him twice. Mm-hmm. And with a silencer. And then he goes downstairs. Oh, he sets the record player to play Tchaikovsky. He sets the record player to play Tchaikovsky, and then joins the other guests downstairs. And moments later, there are there was a gunshot, quickly followed by the sound of a body falling, and another gunshot.
Right.
And all of them run upstairs, which I don't think would have been wise. And as they open up... What?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, it's like, as they open up the door to get in there, the back door on the other end of the room slams closed because Oliver left the window open, and that's what happens when you... Yep. It's physics and shit that I really can't explain. And the police are called.
Right.
Now, there's a scene coming up that I really love, and that is the scene where Oliver is sent upstairs to, talk with the police, and he goes up there, and there's a couple policemen up there, but they're just sort of like dismissive, and they walk out, and the little girl...
You see the outline of the body.
Yeah. And he looks in the mirror, and he suddenly realizes that there's soot on his face because he accidentally used his glove thing which he used to push the umbrella up the chimney, and he starts wiping the soot off his face, and it's extremely suspenseful. I don't. It's like this is a very rare episode in which you really sympathize with the murderer, and he's in a couple situations where he's trying to get rid of evidence, and it's like, oh my gosh, you have to hurry. Columbo's right around the corner. You're rooting him for to evade Columbo.
Yeah, hurry up. Yeah, he can't quite get the soot off. Yeah, that gets him in trouble a few times because he mops his brow a lot. Mm-hmm. Oliver does, and
he sweats when he's nervous.
Yeah.
He's a big hairy guy. He's probably covered in hair from the neck down. He's probably you know what? If he was alive today, I think Theodore Bikel would have to buy one of those manscaping things. Oh, those things work like a gem. I was so surprised.
Interesting.
Okay.
So Columbo's up there. He's starting to question Oliver, and then I liked at one point. Well, Columbo's trying to figure out what this society is. What are they? A think tank? What, are they a group? Like what's the purpose of this club? And then he gets distracted by a table full of toy trains.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes running over to the table of trains, stops his interview or his questioning with Oliver. He runs over to the trains. I thought that was
I have to admit, I kind of like toy trains as well. I think that miniatures and stuff and dollhouses, I like that kind of stuff. Isn't there another episode where there's a toy train and he's getting into it? Is it the Murder, Smoke, and Shadows? Didn't Alex Brady have a toy train set in his little boys' club house?
I don't remember.
I feel like I've seen a toy train set somewhere before. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so during this time, Columbo starts timing himself, going up and down the stairs. Realizes it takes about 40 seconds for the group of people downstairs to travel up. And I guess he's trying to figure out what was the burglar doing for that whole 40 seconds before they left. Yeah. And that becomes a very important aspect of it later, because we also find out that during the staged gunshots that Mrs. Eisenbach was on the phone with her father, and that comes into play as well, because that gives a timeline of when everything happened, you know.
And that's also noteworthy that when he's talking to Oliver Brandt, he notices, Oliver says, Bertie and I went upstairs to play some word games with the dictionary. And Columbo's like, well, the dictionary's on the floor. Why would the dictionary be on the floor?
Yeah.
I meant to bring back one other thing. I'm sorry to backtrack, but in the opening scenes, did you see any sort of familiar decoration in the club?
No.
There is a picture of Mrs. Melville on the wall in the club.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
It's, when Pete the Welder is giving a speech, it's in that room where they're all sitting.
Oh, I have to rewatch that scene.
Yeah, go back. It's the same exact painting as from way back in Murder by the Book. Nobody destroyed it. I wonder where that is right now.
I was just thinking that. I would love to have that. Wouldn't that be a fun prop to have?
I agree. Put it on the wall, and nobody would know what the fuck it was except for you.
Yeah, right. So Columbo, then after he times himself, starts to interview other members of the Sigma Society. And it's funny because he asks, well, what did the steps? Did it sound like it was a heavy man? How many steps? Was it 2 footsteps, or was it one at a time? I don't know what that means. But everyone had their own answer. It was a heavy man. No, it sounded like a light weight man. And then
sounded like a woman. It was
yeah. So the answer's all over the place. Columbo's not getting anywhere, and you can even see he's just kind of like, I'm done with it tonight. But yeah, so that's when Oliver, for the first time, asks Lieutenant Columbo if he has ever taken an IQ test. And I think Oliver's trying to figure out how smart is this guy. Mm-hmm. Like how much time is he going to have to dedicate to outwitting him, or if he's just an idiot. And I think pretty quick, Oliver assumes that Columbo's not the brightest person in the world.
So it's almost like he's making fun of him in a way. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, let me see you fail this IQ test.
Right, and he gives him a riddle.
Mm-hmm. Should we go into the riddle, or is it just say it's a really hard riddle and Columbo thinks about it through the entire episode until the end?
Well, no, yeah, so the riddle, well, we can do it. So you've got 3 bags of gold. One bag has fake gold. Mm-hmm. Now, the real gold equals 1 pound. You can only use a scale once, basically. You got to figure out which bag has the fake gold.
And the fake gold weighs differently than the real gold.
Right.
And you have
anything.
You have a penny scale where you put it on, you put your penny in, and then it prints out a little ticket with the weight. So how are you going to figure out which bag has the fake gold?
Right.
And he tells us to Columbo, and Columbo's like, well, I'm going to have to talk about this with my wife tonight. That's very interesting. And he brings it up a couple more times. But it's fun. And
it's obviously what's on his mind when he pulls away, because he almost gets killed. So Columbo gets in his car, and I love that they've added an extra little feature to the soft top. Now there's duct tape on the soft top.
Oh, I did not notice that. I did not notice that.
I guess that probably got a hole in it, I guess. I'm not really sure. Well, it has been raining. This episode, there's a lot of rain, which I think actually plays to this episode very well. Mm-hmm. Very, very... what do you call it? It really lends itself atmospherically to this episode.
Yes, absolutely. This is coming off of like Fade Into Murder and Old Fashioned Murder. This one is directed very well in terms of how it feels and all that. And even the music is a little bit different. It's kind of like meow meow. It's a little bit more 70s, but it still fits. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad, but when you hear it, it definitely does stick out. The one thing I was thinking of when Columbo pulls out of the driveway and he pulls right in front of this red car, which literally has to swerve off the road.
I love that. I love that addition.
Avoid Columbo as he keeps driving. Totally clueless that he just did that.
See, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is the stuff that they really overdid in the 90s.
Yeah, I wonder if Mr. Weekly would have given Columbo his driving test then.
Pull
no
over.
One knows what I'm talking
Pull
about.
over. Right here. Pull over.
That was played by Larry Storch.
Yep. Still with us. Good old Larry Storch.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we had this conversation last time we talked about him.
He's like 93, 94 years old.
Wow. Yeah, he looks like he would live a long time.
I had to watch, I shouldn't say I had to. I had the pleasure of watching Gone with the Wind yesterday for another podcast that I do, the Best Picture podcast. And Olivia de Havilland, and this is 1939. Olivia de Havilland is in that, and she is still alive at 104 years old. She's older than Kirk Douglas was when he died. Never mind. I was about to say something that wouldn't have been. When he went down to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, because he was in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You don't care, do you? Oh,
I'm not a fan of his. Some of the rumors out of Hollywood about him just bother me.
Really?
But anyways, that's not what this episode's about.
He would have been a good Columbo killer, actually.
He sure would have.
Yeah.
So Oliver drives back to his luxurious home, where his beautiful wife Vivian is in this silky nighty thing. I can only imagine probably costs a lot of money, because she seems to enjoy spending money, and not just money, but lots of money.
Yeah.
She when she finds out that Oliver's best friend Bertie is dead, she's like, "Oh well, let's go on a vacation and spend money to cheer ourselves up."
Yeah,
she didn't know Bertie. I mean,
yeah.
No clue who that guy was.
She is so vapid and so clueless, and I think that Oliver is at the point in their marriage where he's had enough of it, and he can no longer stand her. But even though he does indeed love her, because he wouldn't have embezzled if it wasn't for her.
I would say it was a loveless marriage. Actually, I don't know what he was getting out of that relationship. Maybe she was good in bed. Yeah, probably But I don't think she loved him, not in the way that he wanted.
I think she did, because he at the there's a conversation, the last conversation he has with her on the phone. She's like, Oliver, why don't you come home to bed? Like, she totally wants a piece of that bear meat.
Oh my God, that's okay. I just had a mental image of Oliver naked. Thank you. It's not the first time you've brought that up about his body. Okay, I'm starting to see.
Okay, how about Oliver and William Shatner showering in the prison together?
Stop.
I don't take any pleasure out of it myself, except for telling you about it. But,
okay, so yeah, but yeah, so Vivian is a bit of a, what would you call somebody who's like that? Likes to spend money.
A spendthrift.
Oh, okay. So the next scene we have at the accounting law firm. Is that what you call that kind of?
It's an accounting firm. Brandt and
you're
Hastings.
a lawyer, so
yeah, it's an accounting
I thought of you like this was exactly where Sean works.
No,
it's a place just like this.
No, it does. No, it does not. It is not anything like that. No, it is not.
Yeah,
cast that thought from your head. I work nowhere. I wish that my office was like that.
It'd be nice, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, so Columbo's looking for Oliver. Apparently, he's away at lunch. Likes to take little trips around the park outside. And Columbo bumps into George Campanella. Now he's the secretary to Oliver, right? But now that Bertie's dead, I think he's getting a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And then Alvin Metzler, who was Bertie's secretary, is now Oliver's new secretary. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of animosity. Yeah. Between the two secretaries. George seems like he's a real clean-cut, kind of douchey kind of guy, and Alvin seems to be more of a passionate, wears his emotions on his sleeve kind of person. Mm-hmm. So obviously he's very upset, and he's gonna let Oliver know about how he feels as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This part of the story I found a little. I was trying to figure out where they were getting to with these two guys, and George especially, because, and I forgive me, I don't recall the way the sequence of the scenes, but Columbo eventually tracks George down in a swinging great nightclub.
Oh yeah. Oh, we're gonna get there. We'll get there.
I don't remember what happens next here, but keep on.
Yeah. So okay. So. What?
No, I remember what happened.
Okay. Oliver goes back to the club to get the umbrella out of the chimney, which has the gun. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were saying something.
Yes. And Columbo's up in there, and he's confronted by one at a time. First, it's the girl. I can't remember her name again. Caroline. And she's up there. She's like, I know how he could have done it. Mm-hmm. He had what was it that she said? Because she was partially right.
The record had the gunshots on it.
The record had the gunshots on it, and the murderer. Oh, she says, he was killed before we even heard the shots, and the gunshots were actually on the record player. And then the president, the insurance salesman, comes in and says, no, it was suicide. And he used some sort of elastic band to hide the gun in the chimney.
Yeah, so the president also, he sells life insurance. So the only reason he's bringing up the suicide theory is because then the policy that they had on Bertie would be void.
Right.
They wouldn't have to pay out, which that was the only reason he was bringing that theory forward. And I thought that was really scummy.
I think it was dumb anyway, because if he killed himself with a gun and the elastic band,
was to throw the gun away,
they would have found it really easily. But the idea of hiding something in the chimney, and then her idea that maybe he was killed before they heard the shots, both of those are partially right, because the gun was in the chimney. Yeah. And that actually, I think, helped Columbo a little bit.
Yeah. Certain degree, yeah.
Now I have to ask you. I have to ask you a question here, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think that Columbo knew that Oliver was the killer?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't. There is a moment though where Columbo does kind of focus in on Oliver, and he feels 100% he is the killer. But when does he suspect him? I don't. Maybe when he first talks to those male secretaries. I'm not really sure, because that's when he starts kind of finding out a little bit more about the relationships, and that there's some issues going on between the two secretaries, and I don't know. That'd be a guess, but you don't have any clue either.
I thought that maybe it was something to do with the secretaries, and I thought by the time that he confronts George, the secretary, in the club, he knows basically what's been going on, and he says to George, "It's very important. You don't want to be an accomplice in a felony, so it's very important for you to be honest with the police." And
right. you would be charged with the same crime.
Right.
You'd be just as guilty. Yeah.
So
he knows George has the answers, but he scares him into cooperating with Columbo.
Right. And at one point, we find out that he discovers that if the window's open, the door on the other side of the room will be slammed when you open one door. But I just don't understand, is it just because maybe they're his business partner, and therefore he's the most obvious suspect, and he was there?
Yeah. It has to be, because if it's not your spouse, like one thing I've learned from Columbo, odds are it's going to be your spouse that kills you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
you always got to check out the spouse.
But the business partner probably would be next in line. So Columbo bumps into Oliver as he's walking around the park, because he's trying to...
Oh, this is wonderful.
Yeah, if you thought the scene with the soot on his forehead was suspenseful, this is another one that was well directed. So he's got the umbrella that he just recovered from the house, and so he's now trying to get rid of it. So he's walking around. He's eating his chocolate ice cream, which looks like a wonderful afternoon, by the way.
Oh yeah.
He goes up, and just as he's pulling the gun out of his jacket pocket to put it into a litter bin, Columbo taps him on the shoulder and kind of prevents him from getting rid of the evidence. But Columbo doesn't know. He just well timed it. So now he's stuck with the gun with Columbo, and so they're walking, and Columbo, I forgot what they were talking about, but
Columbo mentions, it's such a beautiful day out and you have an umbrella. And then Oliver goes on, well, I know that there's a chance that, such and such a % chance that... it was just bullshit. I didn't understand what he was saying after a while, but...
Yeah, but Columbo also asks, where'd you get that ice cream? Because, Columbo's more fascinated by the ice cream.
I love this.
And so he sees one of the vendors. Columbo walks...
No, he doesn't walk. He literally runs to the ice cream vendor.
So he grabs himself an ice cream, comes in. Oh, I'm sorry. Oliver takes that opportunity to. They're right by another waste bin, and so Oliver pulls the gun out. Except this waste bin is full. The other one, he could have dropped it down to the bottom almost. This one, he's kind of stuff it down the side. And as he does that, someone walks by and puts their trash in, which causes the gun to slide out of the bag. So now the gun is viewable through the wire mesh of this waste basket or litter kit, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so Columbo comes back, and now we're thinking, oh shit, Columbo's going to see the gun. But he doesn't. Lucky Oliver.
And Columbo goes to throw away a tissue, and just then a maintenance worker comes and takes the waste paper basket away.
And it's funny because Oliver, this whole time up to this point, has been real nervous, very meek. But after this is when he starts talking about the umbrella. He starts to become very outgoing. It's almost like the weight of the world's been lifted off his shoulders. He's so happy that the gun is now gone. That's I guess the one thing that would have got him in trouble or showed that he was the murderer. So that is now gone. He's more lively. He's more chatty with Columbo now. Of course, that's his whole downfall. That's when he really underestimates Columbo, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I think at this point he also sees. At this point, he definitely thinks Columbo's an idiot.
We forgot to talk about the scene between Columbo and the girl, Caroline, when she proposes the idea that, he was murdered beforehand and the shots were on the record album. Mm-hmm. Columbo says, well, I listened to that record 4 times and there are no shots on it. And she goes, well, geez, that's too bad. He goes, no. You keep thinking about that. You're very smart. And you know what? You're also, I sound like Bernie Sanders. You're also a very pretty girl.
And what does she say? There's a line. Hold on, my notes. She says, that's the first time someone ever told me they like me for my body and not my mind. Then I threw up.
Well, this has happened. Next to me. This has happened before in Etude in Black when there is the girl that lived next door to the victim. And he goes and tracks her down in her ballerina class, in her ballet class. And he says to her, I can't remember her name. Hey, Stacy, I think you're a very, I like you. You're a very wonderful girl. And she says to him, do you like me for my mind or my body? He says, okay, stop it. No, give me a break here.
Well, and obviously Caroline gets... She enjoys the compliment.
Yeah.
And so she runs off giddily out of the room, and then Columbo goes in the opposite direction, and he bumps into the president. But
literally bumps into him, yeah.
He's like, "Oh, is that a banana in your pocket, Columbo?" Sorry.
We backtracked for a second. I can't remember where that left us, but
well, we were in the park, and so Columbo. It's funny. Columbo at one point. He's just trying to chat Oliver up, and he says at one point, he says, "Hey, I've got a brother, a stepson, a nephew. I don't know, who's also some kind of relative. I don't care at this point. I mean, how many relatives are we talking about? This guy has.
He's Italian,
so he wants to get a job for his nephew or whatever." Because he's looking for a job, which I thought was kind of funny. I also think that's when Oliver kind of thinks, "Oh, he has no idea that I'm the killer." He's trying to ask me to give his nephew a job,
Yeah. That never works, by the way.
So okay, here's the scene. Now, I'm pretty sure we discussed this previously, but and you even said earlier in this episode that the whole tickling and ribbing from Oliver to Bertie was not a sexual thing, but let me ask you this as evidence, as my second evidence that I think there might be some little male hanky-panky going on. So Oliver goes back up to his office, and George comes in and has a handful of paperwork and says, "Oh, I found the paperwork you asked for. Here it is." And Oliver says, "Okay, come by my house tonight. Bring it with you and come by my house tonight."
No,
but he's right.
No,
what? No, he didn't say that.
He says, "Drop it off at my office before you leave." Right?
Oh, I thought he said, "Bring it to my house tonight."
Okay, all right. Well, even if he did, what does he? I don't know.
Why would he not just leave it with him right there?
I was wondering the same thing. So he's going to invite this handsome young guy to his house with his wife there and everything? It certainly is not done.
I don't know.
It's not done.
So, I want to go back to the like me for my body and not my mind statement.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I think Columbo, like you said, in Ed 2 in Black, Columbo does like the younger girls. That's okay.
No, he does. No, it's not okay, and he doesn't like the younger girls.
And I think that would explain Kate McGrew being Mrs. Columbo, because she would have been extremely young when Columbo married her. So the whole theory that Mrs. Columbo should have been older or more elderly in the Mrs. Columbo mysteries, I think, he would have been attracted to the younger Kate McGrew.
Okay, I'm going to say computer says no. Okay. I don't know. It's a theory. Sure.
I mean, Kate McGrew was probably 14 when he married her, and
So what happens next in this episode?
Okay, so So Columbo decides he's going to go back to Oliver Vivian's home.
Oh yeah, this is weird.
And it's raining outside, so he has his umbrella with him. And so this is when Vivian explains how the record player works. And they're going to listen to some Sinatra, which I really wish they would have played, but I guess they would have to pay royalties if they did that.
Tchaikovsky has no probably fee attached to it, but I love that she's explaining the record player to him in detail, and she does it so well. And then all of a sudden, we cut to Oliver walking in with some wine, and he's like, "Columbo, what the fuck are?" He doesn't say this, but you could tell it's on his face. What the fuck are you doing here? And she just explained away like part of my alibi. Damn it!
Yeah. Annoyingly. And
then he's got and then he pours him a glass of wine that Columbo doesn't even sip. It's like, fuck. That's 3/5 of a bottle. And then that wine's probably like a 1935 Chateau blah blah blah.
Really? No.
Yeah, that's my French. Chateau blah blah blah.
Very good.
So
sounds French.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Columbo doesn't even drink it. I guess because my theory is that Columbo doesn't drink when he's on duty.
You know what? That's, I think we've seen him. Okay, so
I know he has in the past, but
yeah. Okay. So it's innocuous.
But, yeah.
Like his reason for visiting. I'm not even sure why he visited his house to begin with. He didn't expect there to be a record player there.
No. I guess to tell Oliver that he's still working on the gold bag riddle.
I guess so, yeah.
I don't know what he was doing there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in Columbo's absent-mindedness, at least I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he grabs Oliver's old umbrella instead of his, and so he has that with him. I don't know if he's stealing evidence, if that's done intentionally. What do you think? Do you think he did that on purpose?
Oh, he totally did it on purpose.
And so maybe that's why he showed up.
Yeah,
he wanted to switch
possibly.
umbrellas.
But how could he know that he'd have such an opportune moment to do that? Two umbrellas sitting right there. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the other scene. First of all, he sees George in the club, and then he meets George. I think the next day.
Well, yeah. Well, hold on, no, yeah, but he meets George at the club. But you're missing one key character that we're introduced to in this scene.
What?
Susie.
Yeah,
the girl that's flirting with George. She's a gorgeous blonde girl, ditzy as anything. She tells George like she's into all these progressive things. She's into open marriage. What else does she say?
Black Mass.
I don't even know what that is. Is that
I think that might be Satanism, but not the kind of killing babies type
really?
stuff. Yeah,
God,
but not killing babies, but just sort of like magic type shit.
Yeah, and she's high as a kite too.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
She tells Columbo, "Oh, I like how you have your hair." I mean, what a weird thing to say.
She's definitely rolling on MDMA if they had that back then, and I don't think they did. But some alternative, maybe some marijuana.
Oh, there was definitely some white powder in her nose. Definitely, she had a little coke nail. I mean,
but after that, I like your hair. I've done into the
But yeah, that's when Columbo tells George, "Look, I know you know something. If it turns out that Oliver committed murder and you covered evidence, you'd be convicted of the same thing." Mm-hmm. And so basically pressuring George to tell him everything he knows. And I forget what he says, something like, "George, you like to make your way up to the top. I know what kind of person you are. You work hard to get to the top." But he goes, "With a criminal record, you won't make it very far." Mm-hmm. And so you can tell George is kind of a kind of guy that does. He's going to go far in life, and that's his every intent to do so. But this would ruin that completely.
And then I think the next day he shows up at George's office, or his office building more specifically.
Yeah, the restaurant. I always assumed that was a cafeteria on the ground floor in that office building. That's my assumption.
and Columbo's eating a donut. He goes in there, and George basically spills the beans and explains that, Oliver's been embezzling from elderly widows. But really, the greatest takeaway from this scene is the appearance of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Very young Jamie Lee Curtis.
Very young Jamie Lee Curtis. And
she's a bitch. Columbo comes in with a donut.
I thought you were going to say she's a babe.
So Columbo comes in with a donut from outside. She's not having that shit. So she takes it away from him and tells him he has to order food that's from the restaurant. And he looks at the menu over and, I'll just have a donut, please.
And not only that, but Oliver walks in at the end of the conversation, and he's like, what's going on? What are you talking about? Oh, I guess you're talking about your nephew again. And Columbo's like, yes, that's right, sir. And he's about to leave, and he goes, oh, wait. And he goes to pick up the remainder of the donut that he has. Good scene. Good scene all around.
And surprisingly, George tells Oliver it's Alvin. He's the one that's been stirring shit up, and that's why Columbo is questioning us. So Oliver's not too happy with Alvin, because Alvin's being a little bitch.
Yeah. Alvin is a little bitch, I think. Yeah.
So Oliver goes back upstairs. He sees Alvin. Alvin is saying, I protest. I'm not blah blah blah. And Oliver just walks by him, tells him to shut up, and slams the door to his office. And that's when Columbo spins around in his chair, surprises him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no better way to piss somebody off than if they were to walk into their own office and you're sitting in their chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think at this point, Oliver is starting to see some semblance of intelligence from Columbo. He's starting to get nervous because he's on the right track. And he recognizes that. So he's dealing with somebody maybe he shouldn't have underestimated in the first place. Mm-hmm. At least that's my opinion of that scene. But Oliver then goes back home to Vivian, and he loses his shit. I mean, he's breaking apart because Columbo is now closing in, and he's under pressure, and he yells at her. Doesn't he confess?
Yeah, he confesses.
He
doesn't confess to murder, but he confesses to her that he's committed embezzlement because of her, and she's completely clueless. Like she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. What is going on? Let's have a party. Let's go on vacation.
Let's spend money.
Yeah, she's not.
Why are we talking like that?
I don't know. Was there a cartoon character that talked like that? I don't know. Let's buy money. Let's go spend some money. Is that from South Park? Anyway.
No, I think that's from SNL, sounds like. Okay, so Oliver suddenly gets a call that the police want to see him at the Sigma Club. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the brown paper bag moment here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, this actually is the piece de resistance of the entire episode. I mean,
I love it from this point.
I think that this is probably one of the greatest scenes in Columbo ever.
Yes.
Because it's probably the one scene where, explain what happens. Explain what happens.
So let's set it up. So there's a thunderstorm going on outside. Beautiful. It's late at night. There's a thunderstorm. He walks in. Seems to be alone. I guess the maid is in the back kitchen getting drunk off the sherry. So he hears two gunfire or two gunshots, and it scares him. I don't know why it scares him, but he's nervous and he gets ready to leave. As he goes out the front door, the sergeant, I can't remember his name, who's helping the investigation.
I think it's Sergeant Burke. I think you also made an appearance in the last one we did, Murder Under Glass.
I think you're right. Yeah. He was the one at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So he stops Oliver and tells him that Columbo's waiting for him upstairs. So he works his way up to that study and the actual, the scene of the crime. And Columbo starts talking to him, and he says something along the lines like, I know you did it, and I know how you did it. And Oliver, the blood just rushes from his face. He's totally aghast. and it says, "I know how you able to weigh the three bags of gold to figure out which one's the fake one." So total psych out on Columbo, and then he goes over how he solved the riddle. And very smart. Did you before you watched this episode? Is that what you would have guessed as the answer?
No.
I don't want to tell people just in case. I don't want to spoil this episode.
No, I wouldn't. I remember trying to figure it out myself, and I there's no fucking way I'm not smart enough. I do legitimately remember trying to figure it out. No.
So, how's the rest go down?
He talks about going to school, to police school.
Yes. So back in the 1920s, whenever that was, when did Columbo go to the academy? What year would that have been as a young recruit?
All right, so 1960s, because he says in a 90s episode that he's been doing this for however many years, and if you trace that back, it goes to 1968. So he probably started it with the force in the early 60s. And he says that he's got this really heartfelt monologue where he's and they do a really good job of direction. They pull into him for a close shot, and he's talking about how there were kids that were smarter than him in school. And
I really like this scene too. It showed a little bit more about Columbo that I feel like we didn't know prior.
Yeah, and he's telling the truth. It's not like all this bullshit with my nephew who wants to be an accountant and all that.
Or I'm married.
Yeah. And Oliver says, it's really hard to be a smart person because people have expectations, and they have a really good talk. It's good. It's great.
They connect.
Yeah,
they connect. There's a really great scene between the two actors. And we even find out from Oliver that he finds the people at the Sigma Club, he finds them, as he put it, as eccentric bores. Mm-hmm. He can't stand them. They drive him crazy. But yeah, so he's always played stupid because he would get, I guess, beat up at school or whatever. So Columbo basically says, "I know you did it at this point. I know you're the one, you killed him. This was why, there was, he found out that you were embezzling and you killed him." And so he starts going over, why or how he did it. And he goes over to the record player, says, "You see these scratches on the record thing instead of the arm or whatever." And then he goes over how he used squibs, and it's basically like step by step describe what Oliver did.
Yeah.
Except for one thing he can't quite get, and so Oliver gets so, I guess because they had that talk, they were able to communicate with each other on the same level. He says, no, that's not how he would have done it. He would have put the book here, and he would have, and basically,
this is what Columbo's saying. He's talking about the president of the club, that really annoying guy. I can't remember his name. I'm just going to call him the insurance salesman. He says, "Well, the insurance salesman explained the whole thing to me. He said that once the gun went off, the vibrations caused the dictionary to topple off the shelf and make it sound like a dead body. It's quite simple, sir." And that pisses off Oliver so much that the sales insurance guy would help Columbo solve it, that he actually tells Columbo, "No, it's this. You put the red marker right here. The red marker falls on top of the dictionary, and that's how it's done."
Right. That's he not perjures himself, but
exposes himself. Please, there are ladies present. But it takes him about 10 seconds after he does that to realize that, oops, I did it again. I exposed myself. I'm not so smart.
But he seems like he's willing to accept that, Columbo caught him.
And he does ask him, "How did you know? What was it that first got you onto it?" And Columbo said it was because the record player was programmed. And Oliver says, "Yeah, I should have come back and reprogrammed it." And then he says, Columbo, come
Yeah.
on. Why don't you take a little test here? And he gives him a little IQ test. Not a full IQ test, but asks him a hard question. And Columbo figures out the problem. And he says to Columbo, you could have done something else with your life. You could have been in another profession. And Columbo says, nope, I'm never doing that. I would never do that. And
I'll be a lieutenant in the LA Police Department forever.
Exactly. I'll never be chief of police. I'll never work with the DAs. I'll put famous people in jail forever until 2003. But never, and then freeze roll credits. And that's it.
So
that's it.
I got to say, if I was Columbo, I think I would be pretty happy with my job. You get to travel. You get to figure out murder mysteries, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it'd be a really nice job. I mean, admittedly, the hours suck because he's always up in the middle of the night, or walking around with a 5 o'clock shadow. But it seems like he's got it. Actually, he enjoys his life.
Yeah. It kind of sucks getting to be up at 5 o'clock, eating your hard-boiled eggs and cracking them on a trash can or whatever. But yeah, he does enjoy his life, and he's made these speeches before. In Try and Catch Me, he makes that big speech to the ladies' club about how he loves his job and how he loves the people that he meets, even the murderers. When in reality, in L.A., Lieutenant Columbo would actually be working on gang murders and shit like that, not these weird ass murders. So, all right, shall we have a word from our sponsors and then rate this guy?
Yes.
Okay.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Listen to Remco's Baby Laugh a Lot. You're listening to Baby Laugh a Lot. She's the funniest doll you've ever seen. Just push the button and she starts to giggle. Get Baby Laugh a Lot by Remco.
All right, and hold on. All right, and we are back. And
great.
Who goes first, and what are we rating out of?
Okay, I think I go first this time.
Okay.
For our last one, I feel privileged.
Okay.
Any guesses on where I'm pulling tonight's number?
I didn't pay any attention. I realized about 10 minutes before the episode finished, I was like, oh, I did not... I wish he would have said what his IQ was, because that would have been a good number. But I'm going to say 44.
Why 44?
Because that's Columbo's license plate, and that would be appropriate for the last one. His license plate is APD 044.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do that. I was going to pick something else, but I like that number. That's great.
Okay,
look at that.
Wow.
Sean gets to pick the last number.
Wow. Okay.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So 44. Okay. I really enjoyed this episode. It's been a while since I've seen it. Unlike last week's that we reviewed, Murder Under Glass, which I've seen that multiple times. Mm-hmm. But this one really is an excellent episode. One of the reasons I liked it, one of the things I like about Columbo is his presentation, how he presents himself to the killers. So in this one, to Oliver, Oliver thinks that he's an idiot. Mm-hmm. And so the whole time, Oliver thinks he's playing Columbo, playing him as a fool, but kind of leading him on and telling him stuff he thinks that Columbo wants to hear. But in essence, really, we all know, the viewing audience knows that Columbo's playing Oliver this whole time. And I love that. I love that kind of that double, what do you call it? I'm sorry, I'm a loss of words tonight for some reason. But where he's playing, help me out here. What's the word I'm looking for? Read my brain now. Read it.
I see. I know the word that you're thinking of. He's playing dumb. We'll just say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but he's yeah. Okay. Edit that last second out, please. Because Put that in your notes.
Okay. Okay, I've written it in
But
my
yeah,
notes.
okay, not the whole thing, but just where I started, and then I got kind of lost in words. But yeah, so he plays Oliver the whole time, and I love that. I love it when the murderer underestimates Columbo's abilities. I liked it. I thought it was funny when Columbo is asking people around at the Sigma Society for clues, like how loud were the steps and stuff like that, and they all give him different answers. And here you have a group of the top 2% of the most intelligent people on the globe, and they're a bunch of dinguses. None of them can agree on anything. We discussed the music. I love the atmosphere. You really feel sorry for Birdie. I mean, because obviously Oliver was a bully, and they knew each other their entire lives. And I think that when Oliver's talking about being bullied when he was a kid, I don't know if that's true. I think he picked on Birdie so the kids would leave him alone, and so he just kept going. So I really empathize with that character. There was a scene where, it was the murder scene, when Oliver, after he kills Birdie, he says something like, "I really did love you, Birdie," and walks out of the room. He never says that to his wife. I mean, I legitimately felt like the killer did love Birdie, though. I mean, it may have been a weird relationship, but I think there was a friendship. You know, a very loving, to a certain degree. I don't think Birdie felt that way, but I think Oliver did love him.
Well, they probably were perfect partners at the accounting firm and all that, and good friends, until Birdie finds out this horrible thing about his partner and threatens to go to the authorities. And you got to do what you got to do. You got to bump him off.
Yeah, wow, that's harsh.
Well,
but no, I really did enjoy this. So out of 44, I'm going to give this, I think, a good 40.
Okay.
Yeah, I really liked this episode. I thought it was really good. Not much to really... I can't really fault anything, really. I mean, even the scenes between the secretaries, I liked. Jamie Lee Curtis's little 30-second scene was great. It was just a very enjoyable episode. I probably would rate it higher than 40 now I think about it, but still a very well-rounded, well-directed episode. Highly recommended.
It's interesting because this is in the later season. I think this is season 6, and you had episodes like Old Fashioned Murder, Fade into Murder. This was really well polished, and what I really love about this episode is that it's got a nice peppering of humor without going overboard. I mean, the Jamie Lee Curtis scene is a perfect example, and the interaction between Columbo and the other members of the Sigma Society. Theodore Bikel as Oliver does a great job. He's frustrated at all the right moments. He's nervous at all the right moments, and you really kind of feel for the guy because you know what his past is. He fell for this really hot girl and married her, and now he's in financial straits.
Yeah.
It's well made. This reminds me very much of there was an episode we did a while back called Short Fuse with Roddy McDowall.
Yes.
And that's another one where there's a lot of interplay between Roddy McDowall and Columbo. And I felt that this reminded me of that because there were games being played, but you know what I don't like about it? There's not enough clues. And Steve, I love clues. And one of the problems, one of the problems was that I don't know when Columbo initially suspected that Oliver was the murderer. There was no real clue like that. Also, I don't like the gotcha thing at the end. I think that Oliver was way too smart to have explained to Columbo how he committed the murder. Under duress like that.
Oh, well, I like that. I really enjoyed that final, this is how I did it. You're wrong.
I enjoyed it too. I really think it was really well done and well acted. But when you kind of think about it more, it doesn't make sense to me. But everything in that last scene is just so fucking perfect. So I think it's a slightly flawed episode, but I still like it, and I still enjoy watching it. And I'm going to give it a 35 out of 44.
Okay.
And that last scene in the study, or whatever you call that room, was just superb. That was so well written. And we don't usually write down who writes these things, but full credit to that, and full credit to the actors. It was very well done. And I'm also, I would love to test out that whole gimmicky thing that he did to create his alibi to see if it would really work. Because he would have to gone in there and tested it beforehand to make sure it worked. And I don't know if he would have that kind of access to the club. Because who the fuck lives there? Anyway, okay.
Yeah, maybe. Well, maybe he did have every opportunity to go in there and test it, and if it's not occupied during the day, I don't know.
He did go back and get his umbrella from there. And also for the record, I think that if he hadn't just sort of confessed to Columbo while he was slumped in that chair, he would have gotten off. But we have a confession in this case, so he's...
But with him taking evidence like the umbrella, would that not have... I don't know.
Yes. That would have... Yeah. Columbo basically took evidence without a warrant. And he even says that. We're not supposed to do that. Well, Columbo, what about the other, 6 or 7 times you did that? Like taking gum out of a guy's waste paper basket, Going into his office, taking gum.
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah. But you know what? It works. And sometimes, like, he should have looked at the phone records, and that would have helped. But he doesn't look at it. It's only when it's convenient. I think that because of not only that, but also because I don't think that Oliver suggesting how the murder was committed was enough evidence to indict him. But of course, Oliver then sits down and says, "How did you first know it? I should have done this and that." But yeah, besides, I think Oliver just wants to go to prison. It's just a lot less stress.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he was losing it at the end there.
Yeah, he'll go out and hang out with William Shatner and Patrick McGowan and a low-security prison and plant turnips or whatever. Okay.
Tickle the inmates, yeah.
Well, we have no feedback or email to read.
Oh, I thought we had some from last week.
No, we're done. Steve, do you want to explain what we're going to do for our last episode after this?
Sure. So, yeah, like we mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this is not the last one, but the second to last. So next time Sean and I record, we're going to go over kind of our highlights and lowlights of the series. We're going to discuss our favorite episodes, our least favorite episodes. Just kind of a final send-off to this particular podcast, and then we'll also reveal what our intent is going forward. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So yeah, no wig and wheel, no spinning, nothing. This is the last actual episode, so hopefully you don't stop listening after tonight, and do pick us up for our final. It should be entertaining, to say the least.
Yeah. And just to clarify, we're each going to do our top 5 and our bottom 5.
Yeah. And
okay, but we'll see when the time comes. So, and quite frankly, Steve, I'm a little depressed that
I'm sorry.
This episode that I watched was it, and like as it rounded up, I'm like, that's it. No more watching Columbo for the podcast, but.
Well, you can still watch Columbo if you want. You can always break out that box set and pop in one of your favorites.
Yeah,
so don't feel too sad.
I'll probably pop in the Robbie the Robot episode. That one makes me.
It's funny. You and I think, have the same thoughts at the same time. I was just thinking of the Robbie the Robot one with the kid, and the reason I was thinking that was because of the 14-year-old girl in this, and I'm thinking. They should have done an episode with kids. And I'm like, they did. It was with Robbie the Robot.
No, an episode with kids where it's like, who stole the SAT test? Yeah, that never mind. That's a really Columbo Jr. It would be an animated series.
Yes, of course it would be. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And he's in school, like Encyclopedia Brown, and he's solving crimes, and we see who the murderer is.
Yeah.
But okay.
All right, everybody. So it was fun. We will see you next time. Sean, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody.